Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's edition of HR Mentorship Learning Series. My name is Oluyemi Adeosun, and tonight we'll be looking at a topic, effective management of employee surveys and action plans. Our facilitator is Efe Orioro, and I'd like to introduce her very briefly. She's certified and is currently the senior manager of the Human Resource Department of Promasidor Limited, which with brands which include Cowbell Milk, Swissco, Loya, Carmela, is responsible for ensuring the HR business partners are effective while ensuring proactive engagement strategies with C-level stakeholders. She's also responsible for managing relationships and so on and so in Secretariat Administration from the Rivers State University of Science and Technology, Port Harcourt, and a Masters of Science in Human Resource Management from the University of Wales, UK. She holds certifications in strategic HR metrics, HR data analytics, HR analytics leader from the HR Academy, Netherlands. She's an associate of the Chartered Institute of Personnel Management of Nigeria, global professional in human resource certification holder with the HRCI Institute USA. Ladies and gentlemen, she's married to Joshua and they are blessed with a son and daughter. I'm excited to hand over control to Efe as she facilitates the session service and action plan. You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm sure there's no need for this intro again. Yeah, me for this week and next week we just flow. All right, but thank you very much. Hello everybody, how we doing? Good to have us here. I hope we had a fantastic week. Let me see you in the how was your week? Let's start from there. Mine was dramatic, but and productive at the same time. How was our week? Let me see how your week was in the comment section. Hi Stella. Good evening. Okay, Salami, great, 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 great. All right. So last week, I'm not sure we did very well with time. So we're going to make good use of time this week. So welcome everybody. As Yemi has said, we're looking at effective management of employee surveys. I mean, I'm sure everybody is familiar with what surveys are. I'm sure we'll do surveys in different organizations. Just before I continue, I hope everyone can see my screen. Please just confirm you can see my screen. Yes, fantastic. Okay. So when we talk about surveys, what are we really talking about? What do we want to see in surveys? When we talk about employee surveys, how do we design? What are the things to look out for when you're designing a survey? We'll look at that as well. We'll look at how to then collect. After you've shared the survey, how do you collect and analyze the results and the data that you get from the survey? So we'll look at that as well briefly. Then how do you then develop action plans? Because what do you do then after collecting the survey? You shouldn't collect and save in your shared drive and move on. You should collect and do something with it. That's what we want to share today, because most of the time what happens is that we collect this information, just tick box, okay, it's on my KPI that this year I will do survey. We just do the survey. After doing the survey, we keep. But we have to move from there as real HR practitioners. We call ourselves business partners. for every single activity that we do, we should be able to identify or give value to that activity to the business. What value are you getting from the survey? The business should feel the value of you organizing and chasing everybody to complete the survey. So let it not be that the only goal that you want to achieve is just to achieve 100% completion. And after you've achieved 100% completion, then you're done. We should move beyond that. So we want to see how we can get the best out of surveys, what we can do with surveys when we roll with them. So that's what we'll be looking at. So let's go into the introduction. So first of all, I think it's important that we just go through some data. So, I'm just going through different information. What are people really saying? What's the research that has been done about surveys? And here are some very interesting highlights. First of all, I think we should note that survey is about getting feedback. So you send question to someone and you're expecting the person to give you feedback, person to respond, which is the feedback that you're expecting. Now that feedback should not just be data, but it's direction. That feedback should direct you to what next should we do? This person has spoken, I have heard, then I should give direction, or it should guide me to where I should go. So that's the picture. That's the mindset that we should get. Now, interesting facts from surveys that have been held. Only 1 in 5, that's about 20% employees, believe that their company acts on survey results. Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? Who do you think's fault is that? Why would only 20% of employees in companies really believe that they will do anything with survey? Whose fault is that? Let me see. Who do you think is responsible for that, for people to feel that way? Why? Does anybody want to share? Why do you think we have this sort of results from a survey that was done with employees? Anybody want to share? Why do you think we have this sort of feedback? And if you're raising your hand, you can just speak or you can just drop your comment in the chat room. HR's fault. I agree with you. With our full chests, it's good. Busayo, that we agree. We agree with you, and with our full chest, we take responsibility. It's our fault. If employees are saying this, it means that they didn't see anything that was done with the survey. So they just feel, HR has come again. They want us to feel form and go. So companies that act on employee feedback see a 3.6% increase in employee engagement. Interesting. So when your employees see that you do something with what they've said to you, they get more engaged. So that's something to note. So right now, everybody's looking for engaged employees. You want employees that are connected to your business. You want employees that are, that feel the pulse of the organization and are loyal somewhat. So it's important. If that's a way to increase that, then why not? 71% of employees say they are more likely to stay with a company that listens and responds to feedback. And yes, if I know that anytime I speak, you do something about it, of course, I will feel that, okay, this is a place where my voice is heard. As against where I'm talking, you just talk and you say, they don't come again. And now so they'll just distress person, me person, they do. They're not going to do anything with it. By the time you get to that point, that's not the best. Lack of communication after surveys is the number one reason employees stop participating in future surveys. So that's another outcome from another survey, saying that why people would not participate in another survey, because survey should be done frequently, because you need to see how you're progressing. You've done the first one, you need to see how you're progressing with the next. So people would not participate if they know that first one I did, what's up? You didn't do anything with it. What's the point? People won't feel again. And then you start complaining, oh, you wanted to achieve 100% completion. How will you achieve 100% completion? Because you're forcing them, or you're making them do something that they don't see the value for. Companies that consistently act on feedback are 12 times more likely to be rated a great place to work. I'm sure we're all familiar with Great Place to Work. It's a popular Great Place to Work, popular award, HR award company that is globally recognized. So if your company actually get that certification, to say that, oh, this is a great place to work, it's something big, it's something that you should not, joke about. And from their experience, having worked with so many global companies and the surveys they've collected, they've seen that when you act on feedback, when companies act on feedback, employees, that place would more likely be rated as a great place to work. So let us then continue and go into the meat of the day. Now that we have this at the back of our mind, we've seen the impact of not doing something tangible with the surveys. What then can we do? So let's go into the meat of today. So why should we do surveys? Why do surveys matter? Everybody says do survey, do survey, survey. Why? So these are some from experience. So most of the time I like to share from my personal experience or from, I mean, out of things that I've done. I like to gather them together and share that as feedback, or share with community like us so that we can learn together from each other. And it will be good as well if we get to the end and people have other things from their own experiences, because it's the experience of all of us. If you add all the years of experience of all of us here, that's something that's, it's really tangible. So your experience, my experience, everyone's experience together, that definitely gives us enough room to learn from. So identifying employee concerns, definitely by the time you push out surveys, that's how you're able to identify where the pain points of your employees, so management is able to know, because most of the time they might not come up to you and say, oh, this is how I'm feeling, or this is what I'm feeling. So it's through surveys you can be able to identify, and then it then gives you the opportunity to intervene, promptly in that matter. And then you can hear the voice of your people. You can hear what they're experiencing, what they're feeling. So it's a very good opportunity. You also are able to measure how satisfied your employees are. So it's a good way to measure that, because when you do the surveys, it comes out with an aggregate score. And there's a standard, there's best practice standards of what it should be, really between anything above 70, really, from standard practice of most organizations, anything above 70, 75, really, it's not a bad place to be, because it's not very, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's not very possible to please everybody, that you have everybody fully certified and you're having 100. I mean, that would be a very, very great place to be. Trust me, but can you really satisfy everybody? There will always be one thing, either the pay or this or that, or just one thing that is not working for one person. But at least it helps you to know. If you're way below 70, then you know that, oh, there's work to do. Then you get insights from employee surveys. You're able to get insights, you're able to play a crucial role in getting decisions, because from there you can get some ideas of, oh, this is where they're thinking, this is where they're thinking, this is what we can do. And then you can get ideas, you can get insights, and you can also find out your areas of strength and areas of improvement, because sometimes you might be thinking, oh, employees are happy because of this. But when you do surveys, it becomes clearer that, oh, they're happy not because of this, but there is actually this that is making them happier. So it gives you clarity on certain things, which is good. And then open communication, which is very important. It's a very good way for employees to pour out and share what it is that they need to share. So that gives a form of trust, a form of accountability, open communication, so they're able to share their thoughts freely, and share their opinion. So it gives that opportunity, because you might not always have that chance for them to be free, even if you call a town hall meeting where they all come together and it's physical and everybody's saying, some people may still be a bit careful, that psychological safety of, if I speak, are you sure it won't haunt me? Are you sure they won't? Oh, is my supervisor hearing? Will he interpret it this way? Oh, let me not just speak. Let me just do on my own. But with surveys, it's anonymous. So you can fly and then people can express themselves, the way they really, really feel. So there are different types of surveys. You have engagement and pulse surveys, which is really the typical one that we do. I mean, in some places, but really largely engagement or pulse surveys are referred to as the same. But in so many places as well. So it really depends on your organization. They are split into two. So engagement surveys can be more detailed, really finding out what are those things that that you can do, that the employees are, would to find out how connected the employees are. So it can be checking their pay, it can be checking engagement, it can be checking their work tools, it can be checking their motivation, it can be checking different things. So you have different dimensions with different questions. While in some organizations that have that very detailed one, they also have like pulse surveys, which is just to check, like just to check in to say, how are you doing? So stay surveys, for example, pulse surveys, just trying to check in. So maybe you have certain talents in your organization and you just want to feel their pulse. How are you doing? Is everything okay? So you just send like a quick survey. So that one is more frequent if you separate the meaning, but really it's all, so you can refer to both the detailed one as engagement or also as pulse survey. And then those very short, frequent ones that you can do more frequently, you can share, you can also, refer to them as the pulse surveys as well. So it's really just to gauge the pulse of the people. So you can do the very detailed one, and usually people do it annually so that you have enough time to work on the feedback and then come back with communication to say, oh, this is what you've done or this is what you've not done. So there's enough time. Some people do 2 years, thinking that 1 year might not be enough. Some people do 1 year. Then the pulse surveys you can do quarterly for different people. You can just check in. Are you okay? Is this? Just brief questions just to check in how they're feeling. Then you can have satisfaction surveys. You can decide to say, all the departments that provide service, so like ICT, like HR, like finance, you can just decide to do survey. So that's internally now, but externally you can have satisfaction survey to check with your client to say how far, is your client happy with what you're doing. But I'm speaking from an internal perspective now. So you can decide to just say, are people really satisfied with the way they are responding to with the way HR is responding to them, because you are providing service to people, so the employees are your clients. So to check that you are satisfying your clients well, you can decide to do, and it can just be on maybe processes. So turnaround time, when they request for things, do they get it on time? When they send in a request for a letter, maybe letter to the bank, letter to embassy, maybe stuff about their HRIS, different questions, oh, they want clarity on this. How fast do you respond? Things like that. You can check how satisfied they are with processes like that. So you can do a satisfaction survey for that as well. And then when you get the feedback, you try and improve your process. Then exit interviews, that's one we do as well. So when someone is leaving, you just try to check in, give them a set of questionnaires so that they can feel and provide feedback on whatever their experience has been, and you're expected to still work on that as well. Don't just collect and say, oh, I've done exit interview, and then you file it in the person's file. So everything we're talking about is not just the engagement surveys, but whatever survey you do. So whichever of this type of surveys that you throw out, it's important that you follow up with it and not just leave it where you saw, or leave it with the data and just save it in a folder and say tick box here to you've done. Now, how frequent can you do it? We've talked about this already. So importance is very matter, and I think it really depends on the organization. There's no one size fits all. So depend on how fast your organization is and how quick your organization wants to track and keep in touch with their employees. Some people might say 2 years, and within that 2 years they will do work on a lot of the feedback that they've received, and they'll make it visible. Some people might say 1 year might be too much, because the questions are quite lengthy. Do I want to bother my employees almost every year? I'm coming back with a lot of questions. So it really depends. There's no one size fits all. I think you just need to look at your organization and look at how fast you're moving. If you're in a very fast-paced organization where things are changing really fast, one single policy can change a lot of things, just things are really moving fast, you might want to look at annually so that you don't give a lot of time and then you lose touch of your people. But if you're not really in that sort of fast pace, things have not really changed much, you can then consider to do it, maybe 2 times every 2 years or something. But again, like I said, it really just depends on what you want to achieve, where the position your organization is at a particular time. So you need to consider a lot of things, and also the timing consideration is very important. So your you need to look at the room, feel the air in the room. It might be a time where something has happened in the organization, and maybe sales or things are not really going on well. Factory might be down, this is down. Just you will just notice, because as HR you will notice when the business air is really low and down. That may not be a very good time to now start chasing people who are down, their spirits are down, to now start saying, feel survey, feel survey, feel survey. There'll be a disconnect. So you need to also read the air. So yes, maybe you always do it every November, but if there's for whatever reason that time doesn't feel like the right time to chase people to begin to get feedback, you might want to step back. And maybe something has really happened that employees are not even happy over a certain thing that you just did. Maybe there was a new policy that has churned out, people are not feeling it. Let me take something that what will really hurt employees a lot. Let me say, or maybe a company that had work from home, and that time you just said, please no more work from home. Or I've noticed that people are abusing it. Everybody come back to work. Then that last week that you sent out that policy, everybody come back to it. That same week, you now push out survey. Trust me, your survey will be red. It will be red, because people will not remember the good that they've been feeling, ahead of that time. It will now be a case of, the recency that has happened. So you need to, as HR, you need to read the air. So I'll just use that as an example. You need to know when. You can't just, feel out like that. You need to put it out at the right time, because people are emotional. So what are the things to consider when you want to design a survey? So first of all, the objective needs to be clear. What do you want to achieve? If it's exit survey, what do you want to achieve? What do you want to get from that exit survey? Do you want to get info from do you want to get information from how the person was being treated? Do you want to get information from how people are being treated? What exactly are you trying to achieve? So the purpose or the objective of what you want to achieve will determine the sort of questions and the dimensions that will be in your survey. So it's very important for you to have clear objectives, and it's not the same for every organization. One organization might just say, oh, I want to just check and see if my people are really engaged. I want to see if they are connected to the business. Then they will put questions around that. Another might say, I want to see if they are connected. I want to see if they're happy with the pay. I want to see if their work tools are good and efficient. I want to see. So there might just be a long list of things. So what do you want to achieve with the survey? So that first of all must be very clear. So the objectives must be clear. And then when you then craft your questions to suit that objective. So this is what you want to achieve. Then the questions will then, because when you're clear on what the objectives are, then of course the questions will then align with that objective. So, and it should be very clear. The questions also should be clear, because you don't want the people that you're sending the questions to be thinking, did she mean this? Did she mean this? No, it's not time to show your grammatical strength. Let it be clear and concise, so that you're sure that the data you're receiving is from people that understood the questions that you sent out. So it's not time for big grammar. It's not time for complication. Concise question. This, and let it just be clear. And, so that you can get accurate responses. There's no, did they mean this? Did they, are you sure they meant this? Is it a trick question? Then you must always factor the confidentiality part. That one is very important. If your surveys are such that people have to write their name and everything, or the information that you collect from them will give them away, they might be reluctant, because you want people to pour out their heart, and people might not be comfortable. Depending, if you have an organization that people can come out, stand in front of the CEO and say it as it is, stand in front of everybody, in front of their managers, then you've really got into a very safe space where everybody feels safe. But if you're not there yet, and I don't know how many companies are there yet, it's best to just, because we are all, we're human beings. One thing leads to the other, and then somebody will take a question and then hold somebody again. You don't just want all of that drama. So it's best to just ensure that the questions that it's confidential. Anonymity is very, very important. So that should be part of your thinking when you're designing the survey. Then you mix your questions, do different kind of questions. You have multi-choice questions. You can have multi-choice questions so that depending on what you're asking, they can choose from. So if, for example, you want specific things for them to choose so that they don't go and speak off a particular scope, you can do specific questions. So that guides them. You can do multi-choice. You can do open-ended too, so that you can let them pour their heart. But the thing with open-ended, be ready to work, especially if you're not using a very complicated digital tool, because that means you would then need to read it, analyze it, and then group it under a particular topic, so that when you're doing your reporting, you can say, okay, this is what this person said, and you can put it under this. So if, for example, the person comes and pours out, oh, the money is not enough, the salary cannot take me home, person will say a lot of things. You have to read it to get the point, and then you can then say, okay, this one, we'll put it under category of pay and benefits. Another person will come, say, in my department, victimization, my manager doesn't treat me well. Say, okay, this one is, fair treatment. So you will need to take your time. So that will be a lot of work, but it's one of the best ways to be able to allow them pour their heart. So most times leaving it open is better. It's a good way to find out how they are feeling than restricting them to particular questions and particular formats. So I just want to stress further on the confidentiality part, because tell me, if this part is not sorted, trust me, the whole process will be a complete waste. So it's really, really important that we take this part. So even the first part, you have to collect some personal data, because when you're analyzing the data, you need to make sense of it. You need to know what department, you need to know what cadre of people. So you still have to put level, you still have to put grade, you still have to put those sort of things, but you cannot, their names and all that, you have to leave out. You might also have to put length of stay, because you want to analyze the data and say, is it people that have been here a long time that are saying this? So you might analyze answers based on length of stay. You can say, oh, is it people that just joined last year that are feeling this way? Then you collate that group of people and then check. So you might need those sort of parameters to decide, but whatever you do, you have to make it in such a way. If you have a department where there are very few people, and it might be easy to identify that it was definitely Ojo that said Ojo is the only person on grade 4 in that department, so you can tell. It then might be easy that you merge them with other small departments so that they feel safe, and then you can tell that, okay, the small departments, you put them in this category, and you know that everybody that spoke came from this department, and then you can know how to categorize it together, just to also give that confidence. So you need to be able to put all of that there, and they need to trust you, because if they don't trust that it's not safe enough, they won't pour their heart, and you won't get the good out of the data. So now, how do you drive participation? Because that's also very important, because it's one thing to put out the survey, it's another thing for the survey to be completed. And you know how it is when it comes to HR things. Media appraiser, you will chase. Yeah, the appraiser, you will chase. Feel this one, will chase. We're chasing people almost all year round to feel one thing or the other. So you need to drive participation. One good way to get leadership support. So let the leaders be part of it. It's not a HR thing. Let the leaders know that, guys, we need to hear from your people, the people that you're working with directly. Let's hear from them so that we can use that data to make your work easier. So they need to know that you're facilitating it for them. It's not a HR thing, because sometimes we carry it on our head and make it feel like, oh, it's a HR thing. No, let them know we're doing this for you. You are doing work. You are coming to work every day. The people that you are working with, are they happy? Are they okay? Don't they have concerns? Let's check. Oh, so you're doing it for them. So let them drive it. So you have the leaders of department chase the people. So you keep giving them, like status. So you can send to the directors.
To the internet.
Send to the. Send to the. Sorry, my Alexa was giving me an update. But can you people hear me? Just to be sure.
Loud and clear.
Oh,
Yes,
perfect. Thank you. Thank you.
clear.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. So, it's very important that, yes, you allow the heads of, sorry, I lost my train of thought. You allow the heads of department to drive the conversation. That will help very well. Deborah, I see you, girl. Thank you. So it's very important that they drive that as well. Very, very important. So when they are driving, they see that their people are, leading the conversations, and they know it's not a HR thing. This is something that we need to do. Then, of course, you need to use technology. If you decide to use paper to do the survey, I don't know how successful it will be. I really doubt. In fact, even just thinking about it, the work that you have to do, because you first print the paper, you first type it, you now print it, you now share, you now chase to collect. But the ones that will stain it, the one that will misplace it, you refotocopy. No, not in 2025. Somehow you just need to, even if you have employees that may not be able to use, I think there's a way to get them to use it. Either you get a system, get them to sit there, get someone to guide. You're better off that way than paper. So you need to get, and there are so many tools that can be used. There's Sogolytics, there's SurveyMonkey, Google Forms can be used, So SurveyMonkey has some advanced, that it will do it to analyze the data for you. There are also some employee survey, like some apps that are built for employee surveys that you can pay for. If you go online, you see loads and loads of them. Some are not based in Nigeria, but I think someone has come to market, someone has actually come to market one in Nigeria that debuted really for Nigeria, and a Nigerian app, a Nigerian company. I can't really remember the name, but I think someone has come to me. So there are digital things to use that you can use, which will be better than going the paper route. And also ensure it's mobile friendly. That's also good, because what you're trying to do is drive participation, remember. So if it's something I can use on my phone, I can pick up my phone and do it. Maybe on the way, somebody going on the way to work in the bus, he can pick up and be, clicking on the answers. Perfect. That will really help to drive participation. Then you have to do regular reminders. You cannot put it, maybe you will need them to fill within a month. You cannot put it July 1. The next time they now see you again is July 30. They all be reminded that today is the last day. When you reminded them last July 1, it will not work. You will not achieve. So it has to be. Oh, thank you. Esther says Microsoft Forms works. So it has to be regular, weekly, daily. Find different creative ways to put it in their face when they wake up. Work with ICT. Let all the computers have it on the desktop. Pulse surveys on. Have you done your own? Set calendar reminders. Block. Just be creative about it. Put posters. If you use notice boards, put it there. Use their line managers. Use different platforms. Just be in their face so you can drive, because they have their own things that they are doing, and this survey might be secondary to them. So you need to be able to drive participation. You need to be in their face and just reinforce. Let them know the impact. Guys, you need to do this so that let them know the benefit. We're doing it for you. Not really. We want to hear from you, want to use the information. And that period, you can also share some things that you've done, that has come out from surveys. Maybe some things that have been done before. Maybe during surveys they mentioned, oh, something wasn't done right, and you fixed it. While you're advertising and reminding, oh, this was done during that time, you spoke and we listened, you said and we heard, you just have to find creative ways to just sell, and then get their emotions so that you can get what it is. Yes, managers can put it as an agenda. Thank you, Sumbo. That's also a very brilliant idea. So in their own departmental meetings, so which is why the very first point there is that you need the leadership support. Because if it's HR just driving, you're not engaging the leaders to do it for you, it will be a struggle. So let them drive it for you as well. Okay, so now when you've sent out the surveys, we've talked about different ways, we've talked about online, different ways. Exit interviews are usually the interview method, paper-based, I hope not. Online surveys, the best way. So you've collected all the data, what then do you now do? You then need to interpret the results. You've collated, you then collate. So first thing, once you receive the results, so depending on the tool you use, if you use a very fantastic tool, it will solve some of these things for you as well. You probably just need to click. So you just click on something that will just say, show results by department, and then you have everything by department. So you can see, in department, in commercial departments, they are complaining about unfair treatment, then you know that this is a problem in this place. You know what to do with that. oh, this place, then a particular level, our pay is an issue. So you can compartmentalize the results. That's a very good way to interpret it when you put them in different buckets. Then you can look at the big picture, the entire department as a whole. Look at the entire department as a whole. You can use that as well to also share the picture. Then from there, you're able to identify trends. You're able to identify things that are recurring. Because one good way to also interpret the result is also to compare with last year. So if it's your first time, that's good. You have the result from your first time. But if it's, you're comparing with the previous year, this is your second time, you can have the result from last year and you can have it again this year. Put them side by side and see how you're growing. That will show how you've moved from, because the same questions you leave it same questions so that you can track progress and see how whether you're retrogressing or you're moving forward. So then you can then identify trend. Now, this is a trend, or back to back, this department has complained about process. Last year they said their process was cumbersome and tiring. This year is even getting worse. Is now disagrees a lot. So what do you need to do when you're having engagement? You then need to know what do they really mean and all of that. So it helps you identify trends. Then you can highlight strengths, you can see concerns. So those are some of the things you're looking out for. Because remember, now we're talking about what we're interpreting from the results. So you can notice strengths when you're looking at it. You look for strengths, you look for concerns. I won't call them weaknesses, but rather concerns, like what do I need to focus on? What do I need to fix? What are those issues? And trust me, it's not everything. Don't go looking out for the solution for everything. You might not be able to solve everything. I like to be realistic. You might not be able to solve if everybody comes and say, oh, pay, and pay is an issue. You can't entirely solve a pay issue. You can bring it up to management to say, look, this came out strongly, but can you really solve it immediately? You may not be. So how you focus on, the things that you need to do. Then you can compare with PACE data. We've talked about that. Can compare with industry if available. Some industries have like benchmark. You can check in if you have close networks that you can surely discuss with and just have an idea of, oh, what are we really looking for in the industry? Where are we placed? Are we on the right mark and all of that? Then, of course, when you're interpreting the results, you should use dashboards. It should be in graphs. We're not expecting you to now bring out the results in text. Management will not be able to read it. This question, everything is in text. Who will read it? So you're using graph throughout, to represent either pie chart, bar charts, depending on what the question is. Accurate interpretation of the results is also very crucial because that is what will determine decisions that you make. So you need to properly settle down and be able to interpret what does it mean. And because you're not in those departments, you can't interpret it. You're only just facilitating the process. You can't interpret everything because you don't sit with them in the department. So we'll move on to what you can then do for proper action planning. That's when you then sit with the department. So presenting data clearly, just to share, is very important because you need to highlight the key findings. You need to make it accessible. So there needs to be clear understanding of what you're sharing. When you share the reports with management, for example, it has to be clear what you're sharing. The message you're sending has to be clear. So what do you want them to see? What you don't want them to see? All of that. Then, of course, you need to highlight actions. What are the insights that you can see without even sitting with the department? As HR, you should be able to identify a couple of things. If you saw a lot of things recurring, you should call that out. If everybody was saying HMO is poor, HMO is poor, HMO is poor, that's something you can call out and let management know that look at this is something we can look at. Do we need to look at the HMO? You can then compare with other people within your industry. What you're offering, is it far away from what they are offering? So these are some things that you then need to look at. Then after you've interpreted the results, you then need to communicate it. I've seen organizations where they do the results, interpret it, and just share with management, and that's it. After chasing employees, using how many months and weeks to chase employees, you now don't tell them what came out of that chasing. I think it's very unfair, really. So why were you wasting my time? So you don't just share with management. It's not only management that needs to know. You need to share high-level insights, and don't be afraid. Don't be ashamed of the negative feedback that might come. you're a family and there's something that needs to be done, there's something that needs to be done. So what are the areas that you scored less? This is what it is, and we will look at it. So before you communicate, you've already have sat, you've started out with your management team, you've presented the results to management team also, and management can then decide, oh, let us look at, I think we should focus on this area. So those sort of things, you're coming, by the time you're now communicating to staff, thank you all for completion, we achieved 100% completion, we achieved 98% completion, whatever it is. However, this is the outcome of the result. Our average score was 72, which is higher than last year or lower than last year. We need to look at what it is. Our strengths are this. You start your strength. We've also identified our our low areas. We'll be working with departments. Just say something, but communicate something, don't just do it and leave it there. Then you then need to create that report too, according to departments, because the next level you're going to do is to communicate that result per department. You might share all the general report with each department head, but you need to bring out the one that is just for their department, for them, so that they see what their issues are. Because there's no need sharing, oh, what factory was saying when I'm in sales, or sharing finance results to me and I'm in, marketing. It won't, it might not. So you might share the general summary report, but you need to then distill their own for them. So share that result with them. Then you need to then have sessions with each department as you share. So as you're sharing the result, you're saying, we need to fix a meeting, we need to discuss the results. And then you let the team, the managers in the team, the leaders of the team, drive to fix a date when we can all come together. HR can also facilitate that session, but it is their meeting, it is their feedback, where they now come and say, look, guys, this is our report, this is what we got, what did we mean? Because sometimes you might not really, when someone says, if it's questions around resources, that question might not have laptop, phone data, phone bill, or none of that in the question. It just says resources, and we see that the department is saying, oh, resources are low, and that item is low, like work tools. So it's in that session you will then break it down. That's when you now hear, you now see that majority of them are saying that work tool means, oh, I've been using this laptop for so long. I go to ICT, they take forever to fix it. One day they took over 40 days to fix it. I could not use my, you now say, okay, so it's laptop they meant. You might also go to another department and they'll say, no airtime. We've been using 2,000 naira airtime since 2018. They've increased airtime. It has not changed. We cannot call. We use our own money to call. Oh, it's airtime they mean. So you cannot assume from HR and say, oh, I think they meant they don't have laptop. Oh, I think they meant they don't have full scap. You have to have, it's those sessions that will now distill it. They will now break it down for you to know. Then from there, you then have action points. So you then prioritize and don't do too much. It's not about, oh, let's fix 10 things, because, again, you have other things you're doing and you also want to make it impactful. So 2 or 3 key things that are key to them, you can just pick those things so that when you can even achieve them, you also communicate to them. Now, look, guys, you guys complained of laptop. We have raised this up with ICT. We work with them. You can even ask the department to identify like a pulse survey champion that will work with you so that you're working with them, because we must make them realize that it is for them. So they need to work with us to drive it. So don't take up the work by yourself. So we then work with ICT, can then work with ICT if it's for laptop. That person is also following up with ICT to say how far. And if their laptops are changed, that's a win from Pulse Survey. And you announce it, you blow it up. Send email. Laptops, work tools was raised as an issue in Pulse Survey. Happy to tell you that some departments have received reviews. That's HR is working. Everybody is happy. So in the communication, and then people will say, okay, from Pulse Survey, that means they are using it. So that when you come again, they will fill your survey for you. So when you have those sessions, you can then develop action plans, and the action plans should have timelines with the prioritized areas. Again, it's not about quantity. Let the department choose what they want to focus on. So at time, I think I've spoken way ahead. So just make sure that the goals are smart. You know, we all know what smart goals are. We're all highly skilled presidential HR people here. So we know what smart is. So I'm not going to go into those details, but let the goals be smart, you know, let them be measurable. There are things that you can action on, they are realistic, and they have a time. So don't just say, oh, we're going to do this by what time? You know, also remembering that you will do another survey. So it's best that all the timelines are things that can be achieved before the next survey, so that there are things that you can celebrate. Or and if you're not able to close it, you also give them feedback and let them know why it wasn't closed. You know, then clear actionable steps. So this is what we want to achieve. This is what we're going to do. It's realistic and it's something that can be achieved within the time. And then you get who is accountable. Like I was saying, have somebody that should be like the champion from their team. You just drive and then be able to measure, have goals that you can measure, things that you can, you know, measure to say. So engaging employees, I've been talking about the action planning process. You know, it's important that you engage the employees to do it. Let them own it so that they are committed to it, you know. So when you engage them, it gives them a sense of ownership. Oh, this is our thing. You know, let them feel like you're doing it for them. This is something I'm doing for you guys to be better. You've spoken and I don't want that you spoke and nothing was done. So since you've given me feedback, let's work together to get that feedback resolved. That's the message that you're trying to send. So it gives that ownership and commitment from both sides. Involve the employees in the discussions. It's not just only managers. As much as possible, I know some departments are large and scattered everywhere. If they can have representatives, as long as word goes round that this thing was discussed, so people will not say, it was never discussed. So you can pick people from those places that are outside, have them join online. Just ensure that you include people, you know, there should be inclusion. And then you have that discussion clearly. Then effective solutions, involve them in the discussion. Even when they bring the feedback, also involve them. Okay, maybe we could do it that way, but involve them. What do you think we can do? You know, you're the one in the situation, you're the one in the department, you're the one carrying out the work. What do you think is best? Get ideas from them. So it's we're all in this together sort of thing, and that brings collaboration, the decision making. Everything is something that everybody is doing. So from what I've experienced and what has worked, doing it like this has worked, and I think it will work in most environments if applied well. So how do you then implementing? You now have a clear action plan. You know what you want to do. You must track your progress. Again, don't just get the plan and drop it in your folder. It's a live document, you know, it's breathing. So you need to work with it. You need to track progress. You need to check how far, monitor the implementation, follow up with the pulse champions. You can have meetings with them. You can create a way. Again, don't let it be so much work because you know you also have your own work. So just think about a creative way to do it in such a way that you will still get your results achieved, you know, without it being an extra work for you to do. So track progress, follow up with whatever needs to be followed up on, measure the impact. You know, if you solve the problem, oh, what is the impact of this problem? And how can you communicate that, you know? Feedback, communicate your progress. You know, it's very important that they hear that you are resolving some of the issues. And even if you can't resolve, be honest about it as well. You can communicate at departmental level, you can communicate, you know, company-wide, depending on what the thing is. Celebrate improvements, we've mentioned that before, and be flexible. So it's possible that you've agreed a certain action plan. If things change in the future, be flexible to change. Don't say, no, this is what we agreed in the session. It's like this, it must go. No. So be flexible. It might change. You might see that we're going this way, it's not working. You can go back to the department and say, guys, do we choose another, do we prioritize another thing? It doesn't look like, you know, this can happen. What could that be? Maybe they need something developed, ICT, and ICT is saying, it wasn't in our plan for this year. We can maybe do it next year. We'll put it on the queue to develop something for you guys, improve this process next year. Then you can then meet them to say, okay, this is what happens next year. Can we fix up some? But whatever it is, be flexible. Don't be rigid in the way, so that I don't say, oh no, this is what we did. Then more importantly, how do you now embed it into the culture? Because what you also want to do, you want it to be a way of life, that this feedback is coming continuously, whether or not pulse survey. So again, the mindset that I want us to be having as HR people is, when we do things, how do we make the behavior that we want to come out from those things? How do we want to make it permanent? Let it not just be a seasonal thing. So while we'll do the action, the activity of the pulse survey at different seasons and different times, we also need to see how we can make it a culture for our people to always give feedback. They don't have to wait till pulse survey time. So what else can you do to ensure that, oh, we encourage you, yes, you gave this feedback during pulse survey, but guess what? You didn't have to wait till that time. Do you know you can share, and then you can communicate your other channels of communication to them, so that they can also share. So it then becomes a culture that, okay, there's a way to actually communicate how I feel or provide feedback. I must not wait till November or December at the end of the year. Then you can train your managers, or you can train your pulse survey champions on how to follow up on things, because you need them to do that work for you. So how they follow up on action planning is something that you can consider, to either train the managers or you train your pulse survey champions on how to do it. And then show that feedback leads to real change. So let them see it, when you showed, because you gave me this feedback, this is the outcome that came out of it. So those sort of things, when you communicate it like that, it helps the culture of giving feedback, because engagement surveys is really just collecting feedback, and you want your employees to speak. You don't want them to hold things inside or speak within themselves, because when they speak within themselves, then the wrong information will be passed, and you don't want that. So you want them to speak to you. You want them to speak up boldly. You want it, when you say, oh, we have open door policy. Many people say that thing, but do they really have open door policy? Can employees really come out openly and say it as they like? You find out that in many places they can't, but that's where you want to get to. So you need to encourage the feedback, and then reinforce trust and openness all year round. Don't wait till employee survey time before you say, oh, we're open. Or all year round, encourage feedback. Let it be a culture. But you can leave the activity of the survey and data gathering at one period of the year, but let it be a culture to follow. That's also something you can show as HR, that okay, yes, we're doing the survey, but while we're doing the survey, you can let management see that you're also building a culture for feedback. And all, we must show value in everything we're doing beyond activity. That's just the message I'm trying to show. There must be value that we're giving to the business for every activity and anything we do in the business. So these are random things I just felt to show and share. It doesn't have to look like this, but most responses are usually like this for surveys. It could be like this, it could be in another format. Some people use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Likert scales. Some people use different things, but remember what we said when we're drafting the questions. Let it be something that is easy, clear, so when you're asking a question, do you agree that you have the right work tools to use? So it's easy to just say I agree, or I don't agree, or I disagree, or I strongly. Then you can now tell how angry the person is or how happy the person is. Those are, it's a bit simpler, but hey, you can use 1 to 5. You can use what works for you. Some examples of open-ended questions is really, what's the company doing well, or what's the company not doing well? So something simple as that, then they can open up, or what's not working, what is working, just 1 or 2 questions. I won't advise you have too many open-ended questions, because like I said, it then means you need to read through. There might be some, there should be, not there might be, there should be apps or softwares that you'll be able to read and summarize it for you. I'm sure even ChatGPT can do it, but if you have over 2,000 employees, I don't know how many of those comments are going to be throwing inside there for it to summarize. So it might be a bit cumbersome. So it's best you just minimize those open-ended questions. Don't have a lot of it, because if you have too much of it, it might be a problem. Then there are different dimensions. Again, like I said, it depends on the company that it depends on your objective, Some of these dimensions listed here might not relate to you, but these are just some typical things that people ask questions around. So under each of these dimensions, there'll be different questions. Do you think that management of the company leads is driving a quality or customer focused business? They're just questions on customer focus. Do you think that you can see the vision or the mission of the company that's showing direction? Do you think our performance management process is adequate or is fair or easy to use? You can have one or two. Do you think the structure is, our processes are cumbersome, or are they nice? Are they easy to use? Are they DAS? Are our SOPs clear and properly documented? So different things, authority. Do you think you have enough authority? Does your line manager allow you to work freely within your work? That's authority, that's empowerment. Just checking the employees even have freedom, or are they caged? So again, like I said, it depends on what you want to do. Do you trust in your leaders? That's confidence in your leaders. So you can have questions like that, because you want to also gauge how managers are leading the people. Do you think that your managers are leading you fairly? Do you think that your managers have genuine interest in your career? These are some questions to ask, and they can fall under this. So training, have you been trained? Do you feel you had sufficient training this year? You can now have feedback. Some departments might say yes. So then by the time you drill into grade level, drill into departments, you then see, oh, it's like grade 1 didn't get training, or grade 5 got a lot of training. So by the time you use different ways, or this department got, this department don't got, then you're able to see collaboration. Do you think that within your team there's collaboration? Do you think there's collaboration with other teams? You're able to check. So different things. And then of course, pay and benefit. I don't know how many companies we have 100 on pay and benefit. Whenever, if you like, pay them everything, we're never satisfied. But hey, you have to also check and measure what you can in that regard. And of course, like I said, there will always be like a index at the end, and then you can see how you're growing from 2023, 2024. And what you're really checking is the favorable response. Because that shows that where people are, not the negative side. So if you have more on the negative side, you have work to do. But what you're judging or what you're reporting is how people are agreeing or are okay with what you're doing, the percentage of people that are okay. And you can also, so this is just like under employee engagement and how you can put the data and the chart side by side, what sort of questions can come. So really the employee survey tools normally come with the questions to ask. So it's not like you're going to sit down and start designing questions each. They normally come with the questions. So once you get any tool, it comes with the questions. So you don't have to bother yourself about, what questions comes under each dimension. Is now what dimension do you want to do? The questions to come with it are there, they will come easy. So that brings us to the end. That brings us to the end of the session. It's just we can conclude now. I don't know if we have any questions, and I can now then take questions if we have any, but really just to really summarize, employee surveys are important. It's very good that we check in with our staff. You work all through the year. It's good to check in with them. They will not always come out with how they feel. So it's a very good way to check how they feel. The insights that I've gotten from using pulse surveys, are enormous. The feedback we get, and what they are going through. There are a lot that they say, from the responses to questions that have made us then investigate and really see things. So it has really helped me personally. So I would really encourage, if it's something you don't do, I would encourage that you pick it up. If it's something that you've been doing, I hope that we've been able to get one or two things from this to do it better. And if you've been doing it perfectly, fantastic. That's the HR drive that we want to get. We don't want to be HR activity people. We want to do HR activities and give good value. So when employees speak up, leaders act, the workplace thrives. If our employees can speak. I will take Sumbo's questions. What are the best criteria on selecting pulse survey champions? So I think for me, what I would say is, one, it has to be someone that embodies your culture. I think that's really very important. So each organization, you have who, the person that really embodies your culture. You can see that this is a good ambassador per se, because you don't want someone to drive Pulse Survey with negativity, or someone that is unhappy. You now tell the person to really, the person now say, you people forget, so this thing, we just they waste our time. When they're not good, all these things they do now waste of time when we for use do other things. Now they stress. So you don't want that kind of negative person. So of course it has to be some positive person, and you can work with the department as well to identify someone, and then HR can just facilitate and advise and say, so even the department would not want someone to, bring down their own department as well. So you can work with managers to identify, but basically it has to be someone who has maybe been there for at least more than a year, because if you've not really been more than a year, you might not be able to drive some of the initiatives or some of the action plans. So maybe more than a year might be considered. But I think more importantly, that positive attitude, and it's someone that you can trust that will drive it, because some people, you give them tasks, they don't show up. So I think the manager might be the best person to really tell, not you. So those may just be some of the things, but it's good the department choose. Let them vote a champion themselves, and the person would run. Thank you, Esther. Thank you, Ibrahim. I'd like to ask, how often should service be done in a year? So again, like we said, there are different types of surveys. So it depends on the survey you're asking. If it's engagement survey, I would advise, again, it also depends on your organization. So like I was saying at the beginning, if your organization is really fast-paced, where there are lots of changes happening very frequently, I would advise that you do it annually. Annually, because you don't want to give a long time before you then hear from people again in that format. So annually might be better. But if there really no more changes from time to time, I've worked in a place where it was every 2 years, and it was fine because there were not really much changing. But where I am currently, we can't leave it more than a year, because the organization is big and people are leaving, new people are coming in. So with the changes that are happening a lot, it's better to have it tracked annually. So you need to look, I won't say there's a one size fits all. You need to see what works for your organization. But basically the things you should look at is how fast paced or how many changes. If you have employees leaving very frequently, then it's good to do annually, because the people that did before are probably not there again. So it's good to hear from the new batch, But if you have long staying, nothing's really changing, the same things, it might not be necessary. You haven't really changed leaders, you haven't changed managers. It might not be necessary. You can still do it, but it might not be necessary to do it too frequently. So I would advise annually, but then look at the status. So I think, Deborah, I think that answers your question on how far. But again, I also mentioned that there's the pulse, there's the stay in survey. That one you need to do frequently for your talent. So if you have you've identified your talent, because you really can't do it for everybody. Like I said, I always like to be realistic. I don't say, oh, do pulse survey for all your employees. I mean, stay in service. You can't do it. It's not achievable. It's not realistic. So you can say, who are those people that you don't want to lose? You will have them as HR. We know our top talents. We know our key guys, that these are people you don't want to lose. You can have a stay-in survey where you're just checking on them. You're checking their pulse to see. From that survey, you might gauge and see if, it's like this one is no longer here, or it's just the body. We'll soon lose him, because you don't want it to be at the point he drops his letter. You now start matching salary. So try, and those stay-in surveys help you gauge, and then you can let the manager know that, look, from engagement with this guy, this is what we noticed, this is what you might want to check. He said this, he said that, and then you have that engagement. So that one you might do it maybe 2 times a year with them. That one can within the year. So those ones, the questions are completely different. You're checking how they're feeling, you're checking if they're still motivated, you're checking if they're still connected. The questions are entirely different from engagement. In deploying exit interview, it is helpful to listen to what the exiting employee is not saying. A good number of times, exiting employees feel what they feel is politically acceptable. Yes, I agree. I totally agree with that. Sometimes, again, it depends on the organization. Sometimes they might feel, I mean, I'm leaving, there's nothing you can do now. I'm leaving, so I'll say it as it is. I mean, I've worked in so many places where I've seen that. And I think also with exit interview, I think how you manage the interview also matters what they will say to you. So if you just say, oh, fill this survey, so you can speak to their emotions and say, okay, we're sad that you're leaving. However, how can we do better? I know you're leaving because of one thing or the other, but what can we do differently? At least help us to change whatever you saw, that we can do differently. There's a way you can sell to, and most times if I engage from that perspective, I see that they open up. They might not open up completely, but they open up quite a bit. I'm like, oh, and I'm not going to report and say, if I say that maybe the person is worried about, I don't want my name, I say, I'm not going to report and say, Tokpe said this or Tokpe said that. I just need the information so that we can do better. Because if you leave and you leave us with that problem, that's also not nice. So what do you think? And by the time you engage emotions, you see that sometimes you feel back. Some are very ruthless. They'll say, see, there's nothing, because they have nothing to lose now. So why are you holding back? And they'll say it as it is. Call the manager's name, call everything that happened to them that they couldn't say, pour it out. That's when you now wear your therapist cap and now be therapists. But yeah, that's HR for you. So yeah. Okay, I don't think we have any more questions. Yemi was in transit, so I don't know if he's back online. I don't know if he's here with us.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi,
Hi,
direct.
Noye, you're here. I'm done, Yemi.
All right, thank you so much. Beautiful as always. I joined like 85% of the session. I just transited from my computer to my mobile phone. Ladies and gentlemen, let's unmute and let's appreciate, celebrate delectable, intelligent, beautiful Efe for doing justice
Thank
to
you,
this
Ife.
yet again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
A beautiful.
Thank you, my ever boss.
Thank you.
Debbie Lee, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Efe.
Thank you. Thanks
Thank
a
you
lot.
so much, Efe.
How is your full
Thank
name
you.
pronounced?
Thank you
Huh.
so much, Efe.
Take a breath before you say it.
I don't think you want to go there.
No,
Don't
I
think you
know
want
that
to
hard
go
now,
there.
Deborah. What's that? It's
Ah.
Efe. See, Efe Guam. That's what it's Efe Guam. So it means
Efe Guam.
I'm filled with wealth. Like, when you don't chop belly
Wow.
food, I'm satisfied with
Like
wealth.
I don't arrive.
I don't fool. Efe
Hey,
Guam. But if it's
okay.
fine, just if it's okay.
That's fine.
All right, thank you.